What's up guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development for INFJs and how to create an epic life on your terms. Today we're talking about the INFJ lessons from the movie Parasite. I remember before I watched the movie, I was asking myself how these people are going to look like, the ones that are considered to be parasites, because that's what the movie is about. You have a family which takes advantage of others and they do this without any second thought. So I watched this movie and I was so curious how people are going to act, because so often I have felt that if I would just put myself first, I would be acting exactly like them. I was afraid of being like the people in the movie Parasite. So I was wondering if this is something only I experienced or if it's something that other INFJs experience as well, and I had a lot of conversations about it, and it is something that so many INFJs experience. The fear of, if I put myself first, if I look out for my own advantage, I'm going to be a bad person just like them. I'm going to take advantage of others. I'm not going to be a good person, and therefore I cannot put myself first and think of others second. But watching the movie, I also recognized that this isn't true at all, because the way these people are portrayed, of course this is just a movie, but in no way would any of us under normal circumstances be like that just because we put ourselves first. So today we're going to talk about how to figure out where the balance is, how to stop being afraid of taking advantage of others just because we take care of ourselves, so we can move forward, put ourselves first with integrity, and still make sure that our moral values are intact. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then sign up for the bootcamp waiting list or work with me privately. All the information you find below. I was debating if I should talk about this because I wasn't sure if this is an INFJ specific topic, but the truth is, yes, it is. Because most of us are really putting ourselves last, and it has a lot to do with our functions. It has a lot to do with our FE, so our extroverted feeling. You know, like a lot of people think extroverted feeling is all about understanding others. It's all about being aware of a social atmosphere, but in a lot of ways, it is us understanding how to act in order to create external harmony. I mean, we can create harmony, we can create disharmony, but we're aware of it. And because we're so aware of it, two things happen. First off, we're focused on how the other person feels. And second of all, we completely neglect how we feel about it in order to understand others better. And this dynamic is very important to understand if we aim to change it in a positive way. So how often have I heard from INFJs, you know, people that I work with, my clients, people in the bootcamp, situations where people approach you and they ask you for something like, you know, can you do this for me? And the first reaction is, how can I make this happen? And completely neglecting that that would mean, for example, time away from your family, time away from your passion, having to do something although it causes stress for you. We're not even asking ourselves if we're paying a price here. The first reaction is, how can I make it happen for the other person? And this is of course in complete contrast than the situation in the movie Parasite. So then the question comes up, why are we doing this? Yes, in a lot of ways this is an automated response, but what is the subconscious thing that's going on? And the subconscious thing at this scenario is, if I put myself first, there is no reason for the other person to want to be with me. There's no reason for the other person to want to work with me, to want to spend time with me, to be friends with me, because me just taking care of myself just isn't enough. And so we create this story in our mind that if we put ourselves first, that would mean that we're taking advantage of others. That's a great way for our subconscious to keep us safe. You know, safe as in what we're used to. We're used to neglect ourselves. We're used to putting others first, and therefore having a supporting role in other people's lives. So if you felt like you putting yourself first would be totally normal, you would be doing it. So in order for your mind to protect you, we create the story that putting yourself first would mean you're abandoning others. It would mean you're taking advantage of others, meaning you would be a parasite because you have those people in your life, you benefit from their positive energy, from their outlook on life, whatever it is, and you're not giving anything to the equation. That's what we're so afraid of. And the point is to get to a place where we say, it's totally okay for others to want to be in my life because I take care of myself. That people want to be with you because of the strength you have in your life, because of the choices you make, because of the way you love yourself. We do that for others anyway, right? I mean, how many people do you really like because of their character, because of how funny they are, how they see the world? It's not that we like people only for what they're doing for us. On the other hand though, we think the only way we can be appreciated is if we do stuff for other people, if we neglect who we are and we focus on what others want. We alter ourselves, we make compromises so others feel well, and the worst part about it is that we don't see an alternative, because again, our mind has created this story for ourselves that if we would act otherwise, we would behave like the people in the movie Parasite. But I'm here to tell you, in order to change that, in order to change that perception, in order to find a balance where we know, okay, I'm actually putting myself first, knowing very well that if I do that, I have way more to give to others. This is not like a codependent situation. I will be less needy of others because now I take care of myself. And through that, I actually get to give even more. So in order to do that, we have to put actions first. I've talked about this many times that we cannot expect, particularly people like us, cerebral types, who are all about contemplation. We cannot expect a situation, a mindset to change simply by contemplation. It would be great if it worked, but it just doesn't. It's action we need. And I always say we INFJs, we're not really strong in our extroverted sensing. We don't need to take all the actions. I'm not gonna expect you to take action after action after action in order to change that. What I have learned is that we INFJs don't need to do all the steps. We just need to do the right steps. And they can be few, but if they're right, they make all the difference. So in order to change that mindset, in order to feel like if I put myself first, I don't feel like a bad person. I don't feel like I'm taking advantage of others. I don't feel like a parasite at all. I know that me taking care of myself, me standing up for myself, me making sure that I value my opinion most, you're open to suggestions, you're open to learn, but be aware of who you are and what you want. And again, we cannot just tell ourselves to do that. If we don't value our own opinion, then no contemplation ever will get us there. But the step that we need to take, the action that's gonna solidify this, is to actually take steps that a person who puts themselves first would take. Meaning, let's say somebody asks you for a collaboration and you think at that moment, well, the other would benefit from what I'm doing for them, and I'm trying to find any kind of way how I can make it happen for them. And your first instinct is, as I said, give without asking what kind of price you have to pay. It means making compromise you don't want to make, or maybe even doing something although it causes you stress, although it causes you anxiety. So the step here is to say, although it feels uncomfortable, although I feel selfish, although you feel like I'm not being a big person, I'm not giving although I could, this is like just wrong. Although you feel like this, to think of your advantage at that moment, to think about if somebody wants to work with you, in what case is it a win-win situation? In what case is this benefiting me as well? Because that person isn't asking for you to be a mentor. If that was the case, great. You would have an amazing relationship. But we're talking about a collaboration. A collaboration just makes sense if you're both winning. So take the step. And I always say we need externally observable facts. Do something that others could see. Meaning you write back and you say, sorry, I won't find time for this weekend. If it would mean time away from your family. Or to say, sorry, this just isn't part of what I'm looking for. This isn't the way I want to work in the future. I wish you all the best though. So of course there are millions of options how you could act in that situation. But the point is to do something that actually makes you cringe a little bit, which makes you feel like, oh, what a selfish person I'm being here. Because there is no such thing, now you're selfish and now you're not. It's just a perception. And some things that I felt like were completely selfish, completely wrong years ago, now I recognize were just me putting myself at a place where I should be. I wasn't taking anything away from anybody. I was just making sure that I'm not dimming my light anymore. How often have you as an INFJ felt that you cannot put your strength forward? You cannot show what you're all about because that will make other people uncomfortable. That will show them that they don't have that light that you have. This kind of approach is something so many INFJs do, and it's about time we stop that. And so again, get to a point where it makes you uncomfortable. Get to a point where you do feel selfish, because only through the action you recognize, oh, the other person doesn't react like I did something bad. That person has complete understanding of why I'm acting this way. I just say what I want, what I need, and in so many cases, people will comply. But up until this point, you haven't even mentioned what you want. You haven't even said that something bothers you. And you might have just gotten upset why other people continue to do things that upset you, instead of being upfront and saying, well, in order for me to feel my best, I need you to stop this kind of behavior. And people very often do. So this is what happens. Through that action, you recognize, oh, I was so afraid of the reaction. I was so afraid that people were going to think that I'm selfish. And yeah, maybe some people will, I'm not saying that this won't happen, but you actually get rid of the fear by taking the action that will cause this thing that you're so afraid of to happen. That's how we alter our mindset. We are confronted with new information that allow our system to create a new normal. And of course, you might ask yourself, well, how do I know that I'm not going too far? How do I know that I'm not acting like a parasite? How do I know that I'm not taking advantage of others and I'm just making sure that I have a healthy balance here? My answer to this is go overboard. At some point, yes, you might do something where you say, okay, I shouldn't have done that. But okay, so what then? Well, it happened once. You actually were in a situation where you put your own needs way before others. You made sure that you didn't even listen to somebody else. You will recognize this and you just apologize. You learn that this is your limit. This is not something that you can live with. This doesn't feel right. And then you find your new balance. But unless you're willing to maybe overstep it, to maybe go overboard in order to overcorrect, you will never find that balance. If you always stay in the safe corner of, no matter what I do, nobody can tell me that I'm taking advantage of them. If you stay in that corner, you will never find that balance. We have to be willing for others to think we're taking advantage of them, for others to think that we're putting ourselves first, that we're being, parasites. That's a horrible word, but the movie actually makes it so evident. And I believe this is in a lot of ways why this movie was so successful, that people were shocked how selfish you can be, how you can do things without thinking about others at all. And watching this movie also made me aware of how far off we are from being that person. Similar how in that movie I Care a Lot, the last video I did, most of us hopefully don't act this way. And it's so hard to watch because it doesn't represent our normal understanding of human interaction. But take that as a lesson. Take it as a viewpoint of that's how it looks like if you're really taking advantage of others, if you really don't care about their well-being, if you're not just putting yourself first, but you really are just putting others last and abusing and using them. And if you're not like that, then you're probably all right. Just dare to put yourself first more. And you'll recognize through people's reaction if you overstepped or not. And in most cases, you will recognize you were keeping yourself this small when you could have been this big and people would have loved it even more. I really hope that inspired you to put yourself first, to make sure that you're taken care of, that you're the creator of your INFJ epic life, and that you take the steps in order to make that happen. Remember, if you want to take the next step in creating that life, then work with me privately or join the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp waiting list. All the information you find below. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the videos on INFJs that don't care. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.